Hello there, Space Monkeys. Welcome to Political Fight Club. I'm Robert Durden. Now, we're going to be changing gears here for Season 2. I've been brainstorming over the last couple of weeks on how we're going to change things up, and the stratagem has to change because the political circumstances have changed. My first season was largely just trying to leverage anybody that was in this media sphere to turn on the squad and try to get them to cut off donations to the squad so the squad would be more apt to fight for us and maybe leverage Biden to do something. That's not going to happen now because Build Back Better's dead. You know, there's no more bills that are going to pass, likely, certainly no omnibus bills between now and the midterms where the Republicans are going to take back over. So it doesn't make sense for me to keep doing that. I'm literally beating a dead donkey. Like, that's not going to work. So what we're going to do now, since we have so much censorship and propaganda going out there, we're going to change gears. I'm going to be doing segments that are going to be doing what I said we should be doing since the General Strike Summit is protect my journalists and make sure that none of them get censored. That has to be what we all do, guys. I think that right now we're in the censorship apocalypse. You're seeing all these channels get taken down. You're seeing a whole bunch of journalists being silenced, and it's going to get way, way worse, particularly if we escalate with Russia and end up in World War III. So protect our journalists. We have to do that. We have to fight back. We have to make sure they don't get censored and promote them. So that's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be showcasing some of my favorite journalists over the next couple of episodes and reading to you their recent work and then sending everybody their way. And today I have a journalist picked out who's done great work lately. We're going to go over two of his articles, and I'm just going to do this forever. And I'm going to show you guys also, in turn, where I get my information so that you can check me. You know, you guys kind of know. The four main outlets I use for finding other outlets or finding good journalists or other good commentators are radindiemedia.com, which is Lee Camp's site. Please go support his Patreon, by the way, and go to his site since he's out of work from RT. Let's support him. He does great work, and he collaborates with a whole bunch of people. And he, on Rad Indie Media, has collected a whole bunch of different articles and videos from all over the internet in one place. Check that out. It's awesome. I also always read Common Dreams, Mint Press News, and then there's a couple other ones that I'll read like on and off, but that's where generally I get most of my information as far as like reading articles. Oh, Gray Zone as well. But today we're going to be going over Alan MacLeod. He's the one of the senior editors, I believe, at Mint Press News, and I highly recommend you go check out Mint Press News and all of Alan's work. Recently, I even ranked him as being one of the best tweeters because he goes out there and like shows how all of these hawkish articles from all these ridiculously mainstream sources like the Wall Street Journal, Forbes, WAPO, New York Times are all funded by Lockheed Martin or Raytheon, and he like circles it and then tweets it up. It's hilarious. That's actually what we're going to be talking about today. He actually did a study that showed exactly how hawkish these outlets are, the Wall Street Journal, the WAPO, and the New York Times, and it is hilarious. But before we get to that, guys, I want to promote Savage Joy's March for Medicare for All and Medicare for All National Summit is today and the next 2 days. Please go check that out. I couldn't go. I got to work in a little bit here, but I did give her a video, so I do have like a short segment with that summit. It's going to be great. They have a ton of guests. It's the next 3 days, so that's starting very, very soon. Go check that out on Savage Joy's channel. Also, Lee Camp, go support him on Patreon. He's out of work, and check out Rad Indie Media. I want to promote him because, of course, and everybody at RT as well, guys. Go check them out. I'll be sharing them all over the place. They're all out of work now, so remember, like Caleb Maupin, Rachel Blevins, you name them. Go check them out. Go support them. They're all going to need help, and they're absolutely worth it. They're going to be popular doing their own thing, but we need to go check them out and support each other and share it all over the place. And then lastly here, guys, Noli D, one of my INN brethren, my sister, she is doing a painting for $25,000 that she's going to put towards a center for domestic abuse victims. We need you to go vote for her painting to win the contest on Facebook. I've already linked it on my Facebook and on my Twitter, so go check her out and give her a vote, please. We would love to win that. So, and I'd love to see the painting. So, good luck, Noli. So let's work on Alan MacLeod's new work, okay? He's the showcased journalist who I've followed forever. He works for Mint Press News. The recent article that he did about 5 weeks ago was this is right around the time like this stuff with Russia was really starting to kick into high gear, but it was before they invaded. So he did a study here comparing the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, and WAPO, and comparing all of their articles that had come out over like 3-week span, something like that, 91 articles in total, and found out that 90% of them were using hawkish tone and trying to encourage escalation with Russia. So let's read you here. This is about 2/3 of the way down. Mint Press conducted a study of 3 of the most prominent and influential American outlets, the New York Times, the Washington Post, and the Wall Street Journal. Together, these 3 outlets often set the agenda for the rest of the media system and could be said to be a reasonable representation of the corporate media spectrum as a whole. Using the search term, quote, Ukraine, in the effect of a global news database, all opinion pieces in the conflict published in the previous 3 weeks from January 7th to January 28th were read and studied. This gave a sample of 91 articles in total, 15 from the Times, 49 from the Post, and 27 from the Journal. For full information, coding, see the attached spreadsheet. He's got it right here. Overall, the tone from the 3 newspapers studied was exceedingly hawkish, with around 90% of the columns expressing a get tough message. There was little to no variation among their outlets in their tone. Russian President Vladimir Putin aims beyond Ukraine. Checking him right now is crucial, ran the headline of former General Wesley Clark's Washington Post article. Columnist Max Boot claimed that Putin, quote, definitely wants to resurrect the Soviet Empire. Boot's colleague at the Post, Henry Olsen, launched a bitter attack on Biden for not being hawkish enough, describing the president as a weakling who is unfit to lead. Meanwhile, the Wall Street Journal took the opportunity to denounce the American left for focusing on non-existent U.S. imperialism when it should be uniting with Washington to combat imperialism in the only places it exists anymore, Russia and China. The little pushback to the incessant drumbeats for war came from voices such as Peter Beinart at the Times, Katrina vanden Heuvel at the Post, or from more isolationist conservative voices. However, these were few and far between. So I highly recommend you read the rest of the article. It's a little bit old, but it shows you what he was thinking about back then, and he's a good writer, and you can see now that he's exactly right because the propaganda is in full gear. And then this is his most recent article that came out about a week ago. It's titled, It's Different, They're White. Media Ignore Conflicts Around the World to Focus on Ukraine. So again, MacLeod went out there and he compared how many stories there were in the mainstream media that were covering Ukraine versus Yemen, Syria, and Somalia, which the United States has bombed. You know, we just bombed Somalia, we just bombed Syria, and of course, we're still allowing Saudi Arabia to cause a genocide in Yemen, and they bombed Yemen recently. So this gets almost no coverage whatsoever, and this is even more crazy, the numbers that he came up with here. I'm going to read to you a little bit more from this one, and of course, I will link to both of these below. Highly recommend you go follow Alan MacLeod on Twitter, and go to Mint Press News, follow them as well, and read everything he puts out. That's what I do. Until he puts out something bad, I'm not going to stop reading him. It's one of my favorites. So let's see here. Kiev, Ukraine. We are all living in dangerous times. All around the world, intense military actions are taking place. Last week alone, Russia launched a huge military invasion of Ukraine. Saudi Arabia carried out dozens of strikes in Yemen. Israel launched a wave of deadly missile attacks against Syria, and the United States restarted its bombing campaign in Somalia. These 4 deadly incidents have happened concurrently, yet judging by media coverage, it is highly unlikely that many will even be aware of the final 3. A Mint Press News study of 5 leading Western media outlets found that overwhelming attention was paid to Russia's invasion of Ukraine, while the others were barely mentioned at all. In total, in the week between Monday, February 21st and Sunday, February 27th, Fox News, the New York Times, WAPO, CNN, and MSNBC ran almost 1,300 separate stories on the Ukraine invasion. 2 stories on the Syria attack, 1 on Somalia, and none at all on the Saudi-led war in Yemen. The data for this study was collected using the Factiva News database, which is what he used for the last one, which was then cross-referenced with searches on the websites of their respective news outlets' websites, and also checked against precise Google searches to generate the final total. A chart visualizing the disparity in coverage over those 7 days can be seen below. You should look at those charts too. Collectively, the 5 outlets published 1,298 stories about Ukraine, meaning each one printed at around 1 per hour on average over the week studied. Fox News ran the most, 308, roughly one every 30 minutes. However, there was little significant numerical difference between the outlets, whose front pages and editorial sections were all dominated by headlines about Ukraine. In contrast, only the New York Times mentioned the Somali strike at all, while the WAPO was the only outlet to cover the attacks on Syria. Fox News, CNN, and MSNBC did not cover any of the other nation-on-nation attacks at all. So I highly recommend you read the rest of that article. It's long, but it's very, very good, and then you get to actually read the numbers. But it's insane. 1,300 stories about Ukraine, and a handful, 3 or 4 of the other ones from all the mainstream media outlets. And this is what Alan does very well, which is why I follow him. And I will be, in the future, just promoting him all over the place and protecting my journalist. You should too. So have a look at these articles. There's also a video, which I'll post a link to, from Mint Press News that came out yesterday or the day before, where one of the other senior editors at Mint Press News, Manar Muhawesh, she had on Chris Hedges and Lee Camp, which was an awesome discussion, and I'll link to that below as well. So check out Mint Press News, Alan MacLeod, everybody I've just mentioned here. They're going to need our help. So, like, kind of in summation, guys, this is going to be a normal thing for me where I'm just going to link to you a whole bunch of journalists that I think are worth reading, and in my normal everyday life I'm also going to tell people to go check these people out. In the age of propaganda and censorship, the elites are going to suppress the living shit out of these people, and the only way that they're going to maintain their voices is if we promote them. We have to be their loudspeaker. We have to, be their platform, help them grow their own platform, but also spread their good work. That way we can combat censorship together. So that's what I'm going to do. In an age of censorship, raise your fucking voice, man. And if they do get censored, you better believe I'm going to come out here and throw a fucking tantrum. I'm going to make sure everybody understands that it's bullshit. If they get taken down or their channels get destroyed any further, I'm going to come out here and absolutely raise my voice, and you should too. We got to protect our journalists. So it's a very scary time in the United States right now. We'll just have to see how things play out, but that's kind of my game plan. I don't see focusing on Congress as much for Season 2 because, quite frankly, nothing's going to happen. If anything happens in that vein, I'll let you know, but basically it seems like the squad's just going to tweet, and Joe Biden's going to do a whole lot of nothing except for be hawkish against Russia because it helps his approval rating. And it won't matter because the Democrats are still going to get wiped out in the midterms because nothing is changing back home. Gas prices are going to be, I think, $5 a gallon here pretty soon. In Central Illinois, they're like $4.79. It's unbelievable. So I don't think that the Democrats are going to do very well in the midterms, no matter how hawkish they are towards Russia. That approval rating is not going to go up high enough. So let's do everything we can to protect our journalists, particularly anti-war journalists. I intend on attacking propagandists every chance I get as well. If I get a chance to, go after TYT because they're trying to encourage World War III, I'm going to take that chance. So we'll just see how things go, guys. Keep fighting that good fight. Again, go check out the Medicare for All Summit with Savage Joy. They have a whole bunch of panelists. It's going to be great over the next couple of days. Go give Noli D a vote. And go check out radindiemedia.com and Lee Camp's Patreon. See you guys.